Good
Hey,
morning. Hi.
good morning, everyone. Or good evening, or wherever you are, whenever you are. The temporary podcast is back after a temporary break.
Yes, we are with new energy. And
A different, a different energy,
yeah, yeah,
probably. Yeah. What's the topic for today?
we were talking about growth and redefining growth.
Oh, redefining.
Yes, redefining. Um, just before we started recording, we were talking about things like inequalities and how people are struggling. People with regular jobs are struggling to find housing and where that comes from. And one thing we came up with was the constant urge for economic growth and financial growth for countries, but also for companies, even smaller companies. It also always has to be growth and more revenue. And so the idea was that that is a negative for me, at least. It's a negative view on growth. Um, how can we redefine that word growth so it becomes something positive and it could change our world for the better?
Hmm. Yeah. And this is the type of discussion, if you're not listening. Are these socialists or communists? No, I don't think so. I actually don't know, by the way, but I know I am not. And so this is not the angle we're going to take on this. We are going to treat this problem or imagine this problem to be a non-linear problem. It's really a complex system of many factors. And if we're speaking of observations or trends, you know, growth or how we think of growth is just one of probably many factors that influence something upwards or downwards. But growth redefined, just the very idea, how can we grow? What do we mean by grow?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that in schooling and in early education, because of the powers of deduction and figuring things out in the realm of predictable knowledge, logic, which give rise to industrialism or mass production, it's so exceptionally successful. And in itself, it has provided good things. Of course, it has well-being and economic growth that it has really helped people's life to become better. So economic growth, yes, of course, in itself, it's not good or bad, or oftentimes it's probably good. But we want to redefine growth to be more inclusive, because I think we all know when it goes wrong. From the perspective of Russia, what is it they are trying to do right now? They're trying to grow. Are they not? From their rationality, it seems like our old country is not what it used to be, and we need to grow back into being that, or maybe even expand it. That's growth. Do we like that growth? I don't.
Yeah. And what are the consequences of that growth, right? I mean, if we
Mm-hmm.
I think Russia is I really like that you bring that example up, because if you see the tensions that are created by that growth, and it's not linear, eh? It's so complex. It's such a huge systems thinking exercise, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it puts strain and stress on a lot of things. Um, Even we see the gas and the oil, the gas and the gasoline prices go up crazy. We were talking about before the recording. We were talking about how in IKEA for a certain item the price tripled in 2 months.
Tripled.
Tripled, eh? Not
Yeah.
just for a simple wooden shelf. The price tripled because probably wood had to come from Russia or production was there, and because of COVID, the transport prices for containers went 5 times as high, and then there's so many things going on, right? But I think we could do the same for the way we look at economic growth right now.
Yes.
And I'm gonna use the word again. What's the strain and the stress that we put on other parts of our system? because let's call our society and our world a system. Like the
Yeah.
growth that
Okay.
is here pulls and stresses other parts of it. So yeah, it's yeah. How do we redefine that? I always like to use the word sustainable growth. Like economic growth
Hmm.
is good if we and again, it's not about socialism or communism, but I think that if we want to have economic growth or the pure basics of capitalism um, are good. The idea was to have a better life for everybody, to create a life where more people have appliances and a house and tools that can help them, and that kind of shifted somewhere. So I have a sustainable growth, sustainable economic growth. But what about human growth? What about how we interact? How about how we organize ourselves? Those are just thoughts flying by now. But, we have a happy baby in the back saying hi.
And that's
Yeah,
growth
yeah.
for you. A happiness in a family, a new child. Is that growth? Wow. Uh, yeah, let's get real. There are effects. Like I have my pension funds, let's say, and I can choose to choose different funds or stocks. So as a normal average citizen, I constantly seek those companies that has the highest revenue. I'm just looking after my house, my own self. Now, what might that have effect? Well, I've lived and worked in those shareholder companies, and the pressure on to deliver that certain margin, the expectation from the stock market is like a whip, right? It's really fierce. If you miss the mark, there needs to be a urgent action. That action, my friend, it's not kind of nice or benign. It's not so that we don't make profit. It is that we don't make enough profit. And of course, there are situations we need to cut the fat, so to speak. You need to have a healthy, profitable company. But don't dismiss this idea that there are bad tendencies, because there are. There are wishful thinking and extreme utilizing of people to generate more money short term, like peeing in your pants.
Yeah, working with diapers.
It's warm initially, then it gets very ugly. And the money, the decision that makes it, you need more margins, you need higher profit. Yeah, but we are in this particular situation, it makes no sense. We are on a long term and it's a product business. It doesn't matter. Send us the money or you're out of job. Okay, and then someone else will be out of jobs or be pushed harder. Is that growth? I wanted my pension money to grow, but was it sustainable? What did it do to people? I think we need to talk about this more, and this very notion that we can grow in other ways. I find myself growing because I stepped out and I tried to be unemployed. Now, 52 years old, and it's wonderful. I wish I had done it sooner, because the pace, it's like so every day, every week. There's something at work for 8 hours a day or more. It does something to your brain. It does something for your well-being, even outside work. Of course it does. Now, does it have to be that way? Well, sometimes maybe. I mean, work is work. I'm not talking about smooth sailing and headwind and sunshine all the time. Of course, we need to grind sometimes. That's the history of the human condition, right? We have worked the lands, we have worked hard just to be able to. But now we don't have to. And it's this like cognitive, because something is good, it means that even more might be better. No.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting thoughts in what you just said. But I want to pick up on the last one because I think it's really interesting. Crazily enough, the idea 50, 60 years ago, and I don't know where I've read it, was that the basic idea of capitalism would be that we would all be able to work less over time. We would have it better by working less. And we have everything at our fingertips. The technology is there. There's so much there that could make it. We could have it better with doing less. But still, I like the design you made. We keep that stress on, and I think that what you said is really beautiful. Yes, sometimes we have to grind. There's nothing wrong in having periods where you have to work a bit harder than usual, right? But then at a certain point, you need to be able to have it a bit less stressed or no stress at all. Like a hard working period should be followed by a not so hard working period or even a quieter period. And it seems to be that idea of more and more and more and more puts constant stress on everybody, but not only on people, but because it puts stress on people, it puts stress on systems, it puts stress on families. Because it puts stress on families, people are in burnouts. There's never been more people in with mental issues, which puts stress on our healthcare system, right? There are not enough doctors anymore. There are not enough psychiatrists and psychologists anymore. And we're doing the system. I'm kind of doing a systems thinking exercise right now. Those are all things that are, well, there's growth here, but that causes negative growth somewhere else. So yeah, how do we? And maybe we come back to the question: how could we redefine that? How could we review it? What could we do about it?
We take it for granted right now. This is the way it is. We look at the corporate world like you're pulling at some trends here that is interesting. What about the health though? So, and some people are checking out. They are saying no. Yeah. And this is very anecdotal probably, but even in China, in the Westerns, we have pretty regulated working hours and stuff like that. In China, they have been grinding harder, but there are rejections. People are not. They're finding that the promise of that lifestyle is not there. It will leave you dead, literally, because you're just working. The very idea that you have a personal idea and you want to fulfill your personal dreams is not there anymore. And even if you don't come in with human values, of course you have to have some self-expression latitudes here. Even if you don't do it just with mathematical almost thinking, what will happen to a society if individuals are crushed by a machine? Now I use very negative language, I know. Of course, the growth will be less because people will be diminished to something else. And so if you have as a contrast, if you have a more creative society where people can have the slack time to radically invent new things, maybe not things as in stuff, but new ideas or concepts, what would happen?
Yeah. But going there would also, and I'm at the dangerous point of making this very linear now myself. But going there means as well, Magnus, that there are people that need to let go of the power that they have today. Even yes. I'm speaking for myself as well, because I'm self-employed. I have a company. It's going pretty well. I have the luxury to be able to work only 80% and spend a day with my daughter and still have a beautiful house, and we have 2 cars, and like everything we want is here. But this is also sustaining the world we are trying to challenge right now, right? So making that more humane and sustainable probably would also mean to take a step back and let go of that power for myself. And I honestly am questioning myself to what extent am I willing to go into that. And that also we can extrapolate it to the powers that be, political companies, political parties, and ministers and people that are in their seats. bringing those ID trains by slack time for change means letting go of that power, that kind of power as well. And I think, honestly, I think it's scary. Maybe it scares people. And maybe then we come back, we've talked about this a lot, and we come back to the stress and the fight flight response. I don't know. My thoughts are just flying left and right
Yeah.
now, but yeah.
That is probably an indication that this topic is interesting or multifaceted or even hard to grasp somewhat. But redefining growth, just seed planting. If growth is, if you have, there's a saying there, I don't remember the English term. If people come with argument, but how could you indefinitely grow economic? It's not the competition. It's not like the bread basket grows like because of economy we can generate more value. It's not a finite space. It can expand. And if we think of the entire universe, there are endless resources. We cannot use them just yet. But there's some, in some sense, that there's a limited space in which you can grow. If you're thinking about solving the problem of generating as much money as possible or working really hard, there's a finite space.
Absolutely.
Or the consequences, and the consequences is there. But what if growth could mean something else? Just as a teaser. What if growth means that instead of you saying this is the way I am, you just have to deal with it. You're 25 or 35 or 55. This is just the way I am. This is you have to. That's it. And you find yourself, you're not that type of person that has a really easy time necessarily to communicate with new people or grow. You don't find yourself happy. It's just the way it is. You have to deal with it. Everyone has it. What if though? You could grow. You could grow and become a much better listener. And so when you listen to people, you not only hear what they say, and you're not only hearing your own thoughts about, oh yeah, that's when I did that, this or that. You stay with the person and you continue. And what if you could grow into be able to express yourself better, to understand your emotion and not be subjected to them, to have them as an object? What if you could help people to smile and grow the capability to smile? And not only do that, but what if you could grow into being something that you are not today? Knowledge, wisdom, experience, uh, um, personal leadership, let's say, personal development. It's my experience because, honest to God, I didn't know it was possible. But with great fortune and people that pushed you in the right moments, here I am.
I really.
And I find myself really growing at the moment. And I'm 52 years old, well educated, and many say that I'm convinced this is not it. I have so much to learn still, even in how I appear as a person in a particular situation.
I love this invitation, Magnus. I love how you I love how you pulled all these ideas back and framed it like this invitation. I think that's a beautiful wrap up of today as well. Maybe growth is looking at ourselves. Let's look at ourselves. So the invitation is, where can you grow and make the world better for you and the people around you already? But
Yeah,
if
thank you.
two people do that, it becomes exponential, right? Because they start growing with growing and growing with and for each other. And if three people do that, it gets this clustered. We become this clustered cloud of positive growth, and maybe we can then influence each other for the better as well in that way. So the invitation is, where can you grow yourself? Where can you become a better version of you, for you, but also for the world around you?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. I'm trying to calm my mind because I have many follow-up questions or proposals, but I think that's a pretty good arc to close at. And if you're viewing this, consider that this very podcast is an exact example of that choice to explore something else, a different type of growth. I think it's pretty fair to say that we're doing this just because of we want to do it. We have no clear strategy for being famous, or that's not in our goal. We've never talked about that. We have no idea that we shall generate money from this. No, we are doing this because, well, there might be many different ways of saying it. We find that it's so very rewarding to work together to explore knowledge from a learner's perspective and from a teacher's perspective. And that is an example of growth to me, is it not? We are choosing to do this because we love to do it. And it's very easy and it's very rewarding. There's nothing that feels like work. And there has been some interesting ripple effects because of us doing it. Secondary or third wave people, sometimes I have received some small feedback, and it's like I'm like, what is that what's happening now? What would happen if you do that as well? What is growth? And even though it seems impossible for you today because your brain is so occupied with living that grinding life, it's much more possible than you think, especially today. If you don't find the people that is your crowd close to you, it's a digital world, my friend. There's someone out there that needs you, and you need them. And you can do great stuff together. Stay curious, grow. Yeah, sorry,
Another
long
rant. Really nice.
Are we
I think
wrapping
that's
up?
Very nice wrap up.
I said sorry. I said
you
sorry
did.
again.
But it's fine.
I shouldn't have
it's the
said.
first time today, so it's fine. Okay. Hey, people, thanks for being. Yeah,
I'm not sorry.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with me, Magnus.
Thanks for being with us.
See you again soon.
See you again soon. Take care.